Okay, so Wendy, could you please begin today by telling me your name and job title to introduce yourself to the students as well as the organization that you work for, and describe the job you do now and how your career led you to this point?
Okay, my name is Wendy Hague, and I'm working as a project manager at the University of Waterloo. I joined the university a couple of years ago. I'm a contract employee, and prior to joining the university, I worked full time in one organization for a number of years, 12 or so, and then I decided to be self-employed as an independent contractor. So over the last 8 years, I've had just contracts with different organizations, and as I said, in the last couple of years, I've been working for the University of Waterloo.
So the work that you're doing now, you're involved in various projects, and could you describe that a bit?
Yeah, I've joined the University of Waterloo as a project manager, and basically I have been assigned to a large project, and in that project I work with both the IT people and the business people to deliver the end product. Sometimes in this particular project, we are working with a third-party vendor to modify their software so that it'll work as it needs to meet the needs of the business here at the university. Sometimes the projects I get involved with are maybe it's a system upgrade, or sometimes it can be all IT and sometimes it can be all business. For example, an all business one, once I was involved in managing a project where two companies were coming together and they had to figure out how to integrate different processes like their human resources, their finance, and some of their administration operations, and often there was a little bit of IT as well. But the projects vary. They're not all the same. There's varied projects.
Thank you. And in addition to managing projects, your experience also extends to having managed a project management office inside a company. So could you describe for the students what a project management office is and what it does?
Yeah, sure. Project management offices are in the project management milieu. They're relatively new. They're probably kind of come about in the last 15 or 20 years. And what a project management office is basically it's a center of excellence for project management. So what usually you see coming from a project management office, it can vary depending on the needs of the organization, but it can range from it can be that all the project managers in the organization are headquartered in the project management office and they manage the larger, more strategically important projects. Often in a PMO, they also create and maintain a standard project management methodology. And a methodology would be the tools and templates and processes that are followed to manage projects effectively. So often you need one organization to take a leadership role in developing and maintaining that methodology that everybody involved in project management can use. The other thing that PMOs sometimes do is they take on oversight for the whole project portfolio. So the idea when a new project is conceived, the process of having it approved and prioritized and the resources assigned, and then as the project's underway, providing the senior leaders with some oversight so they know how are all the projects doing collectively, and are they all moving forward as they're supposed to, or are some struggling and need some additional help. So those are the kind of oversight type activities that a PMO can do.
Thank you. And your particular job as the director of the PMO, what sort of thing did you do in that job?
So I was kind of lucky because the organization I worked with had just decided that they needed to create a PMO. And just so you know, often an organization creates a PMO because a project that's been really important hasn't gone as well as everybody wanted it to. So usually someone at the senior leader level will pound the table and say, enough, we need to do a better job in managing our projects, and often the PMO is created. So that was actually the situation I was in. So the organization, I was assigned the job of creating the PMO. So that's why I say I was lucky, because I got to be there from the ground up. But in my role, so what I did was I was accountable for hiring project managers. I was also accountable for assigning them to the different projects that were initiated in the organization. And then I also worked with the senior leaders to ensure that they had the information they needed to understand how the projects were proceeding. Over time, we also moved into the actual business case and evaluation and selection of new projects, but that came later. And that's another important point with the PMO. Often they start small and then build on their success. So you might start with just a project methodology and then maybe take on having a few project managers report into it and then enlarge from there.
Thank you. And can you also comment maybe on the political position of the PMO within the organization and how you might have managed that?
So it's a great question, because it's very important where the PMO sits, because if senior leaders aren't 110% behind the PMO, it likely won't succeed, because people will do what they want, and you can't make people do things unless maybe their bosses suggest this is the way we want you to go about managing a project or a methodology we need you to follow. So in my experience, often PMOs are situated within IT. That's usually where they start, and that'll only work if the CIO or the person in charge is strongly committed that a PMO is a key enabler to successful projects in the organization. Sometimes, as the project management matures within an organization, you might see a PMO no longer report to IT, but potentially report to the chief financial officer, because often dollars are associated with projects. So the finance area often wants to have a hand in deciding what we do and ensuring that the projects are done as planned and done well. I think as project management evolves as a core capability in organizations, we are starting to see that a project office sometimes reports in at the COO or the CEO level. And that's when an organization recognizes the amount of money that's spent on projects and the strategic importance of executing them well.
Great, thank you. You also managed groups of project managers who were usually PMP certified, Project Management Professional certified.
Yeah.
Can you explain why that certification was important?
So the PMP is something that when I was hiring project managers, it was something that I looked for sure in the project managers I hired. And the reason the PMP certification was helpful was it indicated that a couple of things. One, that the individual had a commitment to the career of project management, that's something that they were taking seriously and wanted to have that professionalism in it. But more importantly, the studying you do to acquire that designation gives a foundation of what project management best practices look like and why they're of value to the organization. And what that means is when I bring in that PM, I know that when I show them the methodology, because every methodology in every organization will be a little different, just a little bit, but each place has their own version, and it'll be quicker for them to get up to speed when they kind of know that, okay, so we're in the initiation phase, and while initiation in company A might have a few different steps and sign-offs and processes than in company B, nevertheless, the person who's done their PMP will know that first off, we got to initiate, and these are the kind of activities that'll happen. So it just means I can get them up to speed more quickly and know that they'll get it. But the other thing I'll say about the PMP designation, it unto itself won't guarantee that a person is competent and going to be effective in managing projects. There's so much more to managing a project than just being able to recite the PMBOK or know that, here are the 5 phases or the 9 knowledge areas associated with your PMP. More important is that you you know how to apply them to get a project done. So I always balanced, yes, a PMP designation was important, but I also would, in the interview process, look for those other capabilities that they not only could recite PMBOK, but that they got it, that they knew that there's a lot more than PMBOK to managing a project.
Thank you. Now, you've worked as a contract project manager in a number of different roles. Why does that appeal to you? What's good about being a contractor, I guess?
Yeah, so the beauty of project management is it is a transferable skill. So you can be a project manager in IT, and you can also take that skill and be a project manager in a business area. And you can even, you're not limited if you've just worked in, I don't know, the insurance business. That's not to say that you couldn't take your project management skills and use them in a university or a higher education environment or a retail environment. It's a harder sell, but it is very doable because it is a generic toolkit. So what happened to me is I didn't quit a job and decide to become a contractor. There was organizational changes, and I found myself between jobs. And at the time, there was a lot of opportunity in the contract business. And what I liked about it was you're your own boss, you incorporate. There are some advantages when you're in that mode. And so that was what drew me to it. And I've been doing that for the last 5 years. And there are times where you're not working, and sometimes that can be stressful. But it's also really interesting to go into different organizations and just increase your learning. It's kind of interesting to work on new projects with new groups of people, and it can be very energizing and fun. So that's part of the value for sure you get by operating as a contract PM rather than as an employee.
So you've used your wide experience to be able to train project managers too. What do you think are the important things that project managers need to be trained in?
That's an interesting question, and in a capacity where I was in a PMO, I was accountable for identifying the training needs of the project managers, and one of the ways I did that is I talked to the leaders that project managers were managing projects for to see where they saw gaps, but also I talked to the project managers. And it has to be as table stakes that the project managers have the technical skills, back to the PMBOK kind of stuff, that they know how to initiate, they know what a charter is, they know how to do a risk plan. Those kind of things are table stakes. The areas of opportunity beyond that tend to be more on the soft skills. A good project manager will be able to follow all the technical parts of the job. A great project manager usually has that plus some great soft skills, and those soft skills relate to people skills, leadership skills, and communication. Those are 3 areas. So more and more, the other area of growth in the project management field is business savvy, being able to talk to executives, because the projects at the end of the day are business investments. So those are the areas that I'd say base level technical, then the communications leadership, and then going the extra mile would be the business savvy that senior project managers can bring to the role.
Thank you. You've also thought a bit about the future of project management, and I wanted to ask your views on that. What do you think is likely to be to happen in the future and to be important about project management in the future?
Well, I'm not a crystal ball, but I have, because I'm in this business, I go to conferences and I read and listen, and my own experience. So that combined, where I see project management as a career going is, right now it's gained a lot of recognition and appreciation in different types of business, but it's not widely recognized and valued everywhere. So I think as over the years ahead, it will become recognized as a core competency, that it won't just be a skill that you hire in a dedicated project manager. I believe that going forward, every manager and anyone who's accountable for executing strategic change will need to have project management know-how. They'll need to know some of the basic tools and how to execute and provide oversight on that to be successful in their role as a manager. So I think strongly that that's where we're going.
Thank you. And so my final question is really based on your career so far. A lot of the people who are watching this will be thinking about their future, perhaps their first job beyond university or a new job from where they are now. What advice would you give them about how they should approach their career perhaps, or that they should consider in their working life?
I think to be open to opportunities and to avail yourself of those opportunities so that you have a variety of experience. I think you never know. Usually job opportunities come up and hiring managers want someone who's got experience specific to their role. And by a young person or a person starting their career, by not just going deep into one thing, but rather spending a little time in one thing and then not staying overly long, learning something new and then something new, I think creates a more rounded, I want to say employee, but person who is better equipped to take the different opportunities that can come along. The other one that I'm a big fan of is continuous learning. Whether it's formal or informal, just constantly refreshing your skill set positions you to be ready as opportunities emerge for you career-wise. So that would be my advice too. Don't be afraid to try different things. In fact, seek out new opportunities and to keep learning.
Thank you, Wendy. I appreciate you taking the time today to record the video and talk to the students. I think what you've had to say is going to be very valuable to them in their future careers.
Oh, I hope so. Thank you for the opportunity.